Alright, good morning. So what we got here is my 94 Nissan Pathfinder. One of the problems with a 30-year-old vehicle is these automatic hubs, they end up giving up the ghost at some point. So I'm going to show you today how I've converted the automatic just to a straight locked hub, just the same as if you had a manual hub and you had locked them. So the point is not a long-term solution. This is just so you can get your truck back up on the road for short term if you need your four-wheel drive. Or if you just got a mud truck, off-road truck that you don't really care too much about, this will just lock everything up so you're good to go. Alright, so I got the hub undone here. We'll talk real quick about how these work, so to say. So inside here, attached to the axle shaft, here's a brake shoe assembly. This inner one attaches inside of here, and it is splined. You can see here, splined to the axle, and then the hub here attaches to the hub on the wheel. Basically, as the axle spins faster than the wheel assembly, those brakes engage and it locks the hub. We'll see more once we get inside out of the cold. Alright, so quick note on these, everything in here is grease packed. You're going to want a good stack full of paper towels, some brake clean, and this book doesn't do no good. So this book actually only shows up till this disassembly as is, and then it's recommended you just replace the whole unit. However, we are poor, so we're going to re-engineer this to be just a locked hub, as I said earlier. So this is more of a fix until you can get together another $100 or so for a worn hub, or just to get you off the trails or out again wheeling for the day. This is just your woods rig or whatnot. As far as tools go, you're basically just going to need a small pick set, screwdrivers, some basic hand tools. Pretty much nothing in here is impossible to get undone, but redoing it would need a little bit more extra help. Thankfully, we're not going to redo anything. I'm going to go ahead and get this disassembled so you all can see what's up. I will try and explain it as best I can, or I'll just have to recap in voiceover. Clean all this extra old grease out here, and then just inside this lip is a locking ring. And you feel that there's a split right here. You'll be able to feel it with your pick or a screwdriver. Once you get that started, this one's kind of spiral shaped. You may need two picks, you may need an extra pair of hands. Take all these out because they're in the way. I don't know how well you can see, but this is actually more of a spiral shape. It's a spring. Once you get it out, you'll have to pop it up, and it should slide right out. Alright, so you can see I got it started here. We'll just go ahead and work our way out with it. I'm getting it worked out of that groove that it's in. Once it's started, it comes up pretty smoothly. Of course, now that I've said that, it's going to bite me. And there it goes. Now, this inner assembly pops right out. So, I showed you a little bit outside. This is the inner assembly. This is sleeved to the axle, whereas these lugs, if you can see them, are sleeved inside the cup. Alright, so, because I know the last video was kind of wonky with my video angle, this is a locking ring. It sits inside of that groove right there. That holds in the automatic clutch assembly, and inside of here is a thrust bearing. Yeah, bearing. a spacer. Those may have gone back in the wrong order. I don't remember. They're not going to go back in anyways. Inside of here, this side splines into the axle. And you can see these two notch tabs here. As the axle pushes, or the brake on the axle bit pushes, this hump pushes against the gap and will actually thrust out these teeth here, which will then engage on that portion. So next up, we have to take apart, disassemble this assembly. So around the edge here, it's hard to see because all the grease still, there is a locking ring, again, ring, collar, whatever you want to call it. You have to pick it out with a screwdriver or a pick, and then don't lose it because we're going to use it again. Same with this guy. I had to go find this after it went flying across the shop. So I'll try and set you all up so you can watch. Hopefully you see better this time. So Q-tip will help you get into these little tight spots with some brake clean. You can get in and see what's going on a little better. Alright, so right here, this here is the gap in that ring. So we just got to push this over to about here. Right here is the gap in that ring. So we're going to try and push the whole thing over to about here, and we can pop it out a lot easier. Alright, so I've got the whole thing sitting here in the vise. It's a lot easier to do. It's hard to do with one hand here, but there's the gap. I'm going to push with the screwdriver and a hammer and tap it till it's right about in that gap. Alright, now that that ring is in that gap there, it's a lot easier to get the pick behind, and we'll just slip the whole thing out just like the previous ring. Alright, sorry you probably couldn't see that. Oh, dang it. So we've got this ring slipped out. Just going to follow it around. Try not to mangle it too much. So the whole thing's under a decent amount of pressure because there's a large spring holding this piece against the bottom of this case. So it's all probably going to pop once I pull this ring out. There it goes. Now, it's the last, almost the last piece that we had to take apart. We've got this giant spring here. We can just throw that off to the side. And here is our automatic locking clutch assembly. Alright, now that we got this out, we can see a little bit better how the whole assembly works. As I said before, these inner splines are splined to the axle. These teeth are splined into the hub housing, which is then bolted into the wheel assembly. So, as the axle spins faster, that brake on it grabs this piece, which then forces this lower piece out, which engages these teeth into the bottom there. So now that we know how this assembly automatically engages the hub to the axle, we can figure out how to make it locked. Basically, all we have to do is stop this piece from shrinking back in. So we take the spring from earlier that helped push out the brake pieces, slide it in there, and slide the whole assembly back together, which is difficult to do with one hand. There we go. There. Now it's in. It's not going to be pretty, but all we need to do is make sure that doesn't go back in, and there's not going to be any other forces to make it do so. I'm going to put this back inside that cup. We'll put that locking ring in. Alright. Now that we've got this somewhat reassembled, I'm going to take this ring, put it back in there. This whole assembly, put it back in the hub. Take this thrust washer, put it on top as a spacer to get the spacing right. And then reassemble this split locking ring. This piece here, kind of a pain, but just working slowly and you'll get her in there. There you go. Alrighty, so final thoughts. This is now just a locked hub. All this will do is lock up the axle into the hub. So this is again just for semi-short term, in case you need to get the truck running again, you need your four-wheel drive. If you do this to one side, you have to do it to both, because as the one hub turns the axle, which turns the differential. If you're not in four-wheel drive, the drive shaft will not be spinning, and you're just going to turn the axle on the other side, which will then engage the automatic hub, and it'll start to engage and disengage, and it's going to eventually wear out this hub to the point where you can't even do the modification anymore. So short-term, quick, cheap fix. Take you 30-40 minutes if you kind of know what you're doing. Maybe an hour and a half if you don't. So reassembly after this, it's pretty much the same, except you may need to get the jack out just to lift that wheel up to line up the splines on the axle and the splines on the hub. Once those are all lined up, you can just pop it back in, start tightening things up. Alright guys, so this hub's reinstalled, all fixed up and good to go. Thank you for watching. Let me know in the comments if you got any questions, comments, concerns, bitches, gripes, complaints, something of the sort. Again, I said earlier, this is a Nissan. This may or may not work on other models. This is one of the WD-21 Pathfinders. Probably definitely works on the other pickups. Perhaps works on the Pathfinder, or excuse me, the Frontiers. Probably works on other Toyotas and other vehicles with similar automatic hubs. Thanks for watching.